Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to sit down and chat with amazing humans about their journeys with mental health. For this episode, I'm so happy to introduce a friend of mine, Katie Virtue, to this conversation. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, everyone.
Hello, and lovely to see you. For those who are listening, I'll let Katie explain the top she's wearing so that you can understand a little bit more about it. But just as I always do, just very quickly, I'll do a brief introduction, how I know Katie and why she's an amazing human and perfect for this conversation. And then I'll let you do the proper introduction to who you really are. But Katie and I have known each other for a few years now. We both have a mutual passion for travel and in particular travel wellbeing, to the point that in the latter part of 2019, we created this wonderful organization or association called the Business Travel Wellbeing Community. So we are both founding members of that community, which is just incredible. We're very passionate about mental health, wellbeing, and all the assets and facets that attach itself to those. So we will talk a little bit about them, but not too much, because this is a story about Katie's journey. Katie, welcome. It's lovely to see you as always. Whenever we talk, I love seeing you on the camera as well, being able to chat about things that we're both into. So do your introduction, let everybody know who you are.
Thank you, Matt. And hi, everyone. As mentioned, Katie Virtue. I am a consultant for business travel, and then also have discovered, and over the past few years, this passion for well-being. And so, as Matt mentioned, with our Business Travel Wellbeing Community, get to bring both of those together. Also a mother to two boys and an avid runner, as well as a hockey player. And if you're listening in, as Matt mentioned, I'm wearing a hockey jersey. And I thought, this morning I was getting all ready with my professional attire for this and realized, okay, for once, this isn't a more formal conversation. It's not, a professional presentation. So I want to wear my hockey jersey today, even though it smells like a hockey jersey. I'll just have to deal with that virtually and by myself anyway. So,
Yep.
So that's a bit of who I am.
Brilliant stuff. Well, it's a pleasure to see. And it smells like a hockey jersey because last night you played hockey, right? So late last night you were playing hockey.
Yes. So thankfully, I've been playing for, most of the last few months and still been able to play. You had to take a little break for a while last year when it was closed down, but it's great now to be back playing again. Good for my mental health.
Absolutely, yeah. I know a few of the people that listen to this are big hockey fans as well. So I'm sure they'll be very intrigued to know how you managed to get open again so quickly when we were over here. We're still struggling to get back to team sports. And oh my gosh, the impact of that, of course, is huge. But this is your story, Katie. This is about you and what you've been doing and your journey with, mental health. That's the reason for these podcasts, of course. And you define what that looks like. But I know, we've had some pre-conversations about this as well. So over to you, really. Tell us a story, a little bit more about you and who you are. You're not in your professional mode, so no presentations today, which is fantastic. So let's learn a bit more about you, Katie.
Sure. And of course, I still bring my professional mindset and in preparing for this, kind of organize my thoughts into what's happened in my life and how that's changed. So I'll start with hockey because that I think is one of the first things that growing up has had implications further down the line. So hockey, usually a male dominated sport. So growing up, I was the only girl on a team of boys for many years until finally there was a girls team. But it was hard as a kid to kind of be the outsider and not, love this sport I'm playing, but not quite feel always comfortable that I had teammates. And I had coaches, that now in later life, I realized were not the most positive influences, and a definitely negative approach to coaching, a lot of yelling, a lot of, personal, beratement if you didn't accomplish things. But I just took it as, hey, that's what this is, try harder, work harder. And that's where I'll see success as long as I, keep working harder. And So I mentioned that because, as I said, I think down the line, I think that's had its impacts. Some good, resiliency, grit, where a lot of probably people who played sports have learned things that they take now into their family or career life. But it was a few years ago where I started to realize I was taking some of that negative approach then, whether it was how I managed people when I started to get into roles of having to manage people. Even, just with my husband and in the way we would approach conversations, and not realizing the negative words or tone sometimes and just thinking I was simply requesting or asking something. So I had to go through this realization of empathy, of
Right.
need to be more empathetic, and not because I didn't care about others or didn't want to care about others, but it just wasn't something that was part of me naturally, I guess. And it's funny though, some of the ways in which that happened, like I said, having to start manage people in the workplace, I learned a lot about myself and what it meant to be a leader in that setting. And I was also asked to be a fitness coach a couple years ago. I had started on this new program after having kids, and you want to, try to work on your health. So I was doing that, especially from a physical standpoint, these programs. And someone said, do you want to be this fitness coach? And I thought, oh my God, no way. Like, I see these people who are, like, great job, go out there, go, you can do this, and sharing about themselves and how they've transformed. And I'm like, that is not me outwardly, but I agreed. I said, okay, let me try it. And it was amazing. And one of the things I thought too is I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have conversations more with people about, like, how are you doing? And, what can I help you with? And where are you struggling? And I was like, it wasn't very natural outside of close friends and
Sure.
family
Yeah.
relationships with. So I agreed and started doing it, and was amazed that telling someone something positively, posting a positive quote, asking someone about their struggles. And I started to then over time get these messages of, like, I'm so inspired by you. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't realize I could have that impact outside of the work world of, trying to do presentations and things, simply by sharing more of what I was doing, how I was handling motherhood and being a working mom and working on my health and all that. And it was great because it evolved from this physical focus, physical fitness and body and health to more of a mental side. And my husband, he started a new job where he had this quote about 5 to 1. For every one negative thing, there should be 5 positives. So if there's something negative we need to discuss or talk about, how can we work in other positives? And of course, at first I just rolled my eyes and said, yeah, whatever, but now I think about it more. I do think about it. Like, if I have to say something that's not quite as positive, or get something across, how do I work in more positives? And even him coming to me and saying, long days at work, you get home, first thing is, can you go take care of this? Can you go do this? And not a, hi, how was your day? It's great to see you. Like, do you mind, helping with this? And I thought, oh, it was just a shift in approach.
Wow. Interesting though. It's fascinating though, isn't it? How you sort of recognize those moments. And I love that 5 to 1 thought, for every one negative, have 5 positives. I think that's amazing. And if we can aspire to that, I talk about balance in our days, and every day we have positive and negative influences to our mental health, good decisions, bad decisions, good news, bad news. And I like that thought of having those 5 to 1. So I want to go back a little bit, if that's okay, Katie, to those early years when you were playing hockey, because I think this is really an important part actually around, because lots of people out there are involved in team sports, or they've been involved in team sports when they were younger. And you're right, the coaching is, it's a certain way. I know that's maybe being adapted a little bit more now to the current world, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a reach. I hope it is. How do you think that influenced you in terms of those changes, those choices you made? Do you just think that hardened you a bit more, or do you, I don't know how that would have worked, but at home, how were you at home with your family?
I mean, I had a great relationship with my parents. They were very supportive of the sports and the hockey. So that was good. Although, again, it was I wanted to perform and do well because I love the sport. I knew my dad loved it.
Right.
And so, I think it was, but we never had a relationship that was very open in terms of me talking to him to say, like, this is hard because I'm the only girl. I have to be in a separate dressing room. Then you start to get to the age of, where girls and boys might start to have feelings towards each other, but then you're like, this is, you're in this environment of being on this team, and then even other parents, who would be upset about a girl being put ahead of their son, those types of things. But I never, my dad was my biggest fan, but at the same time, we never had discussions about that. He was always there, but he was also always there. But I always knew in the stands he was thinking and motioning to me, do this different, do this better, again, because he loved me and he wanted me to do well.
Yeah.
But just kind of, I think, became this, like I said, you work hard and you give your best. And if you work hard enough and just keep doing that, and I think I took that into other things in life. So work hard in school. And then when I got to, the workplace, it was, just do as much work as possible, to work hard. And that's, when things are okay and you don't, get yelled at then, and good things happen.
So the yelling stuff, though, has had an impact, hasn't it, in many ways there? Is that, am I reading that correctly? Sort of the yelling is, so avoid the yelling by working hard and not being yelled at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that was kind of the way it worked with, a lot of these coaches growing up.
What about your coach now? And that's a really bad one, isn't it? Sort of, be kind, I'm sure, about your coach now. But how is it now for you? Is it changed? Is it similar? How does it work?
Well, so we don't have coaches now.
Okay, all right.
As adults. But like I said, I think now I take that into, I'm, with my kids, and now I'm starting to coach and help my son. And I'm very conscious of how am I portraying that, and yelling, even something like that, how does that come off? And so, taking that into my home life, my work life, as well, to think about all of that. And I think too, I've had a career change in the last few years. And that's helped, switching from a culture that was male dominated, was very, you had a certain way of looking at females that when I got out of that culture, when I went through this journey as a fitness coach, and had all these realizations, it just made me think more about, okay, well, there are different environments to live in, to thrive in.
It's a really interesting one. You're absolutely right. So you changed. So the transition from where you were in a very male dominated organization to where you are now, even in the work that you do with your organization that you work with. How are you finding that now? So obviously you're all over the world with the team that you're in at the minute. How are you finding that journey?
So it's awesome. I mean, I love the work that I'm doing. And it's funny because sometimes I stop and think about it, and is there a broader purpose to it? But I hear a lot of people in the travel industry always talk about they're in it because they want to help people in terms of simply whether it's getting to where they go or enabling these other people. And so I love that mentality that there's a lot of people in the industry that want to just help others, and that I can be part of that. So, being more feeling like I have more fulfillment within my job, the flexibility to do things like the Business Traveler Wellbeing Community, which again, has opened my eyes to so many other parts of mental health, of other types of well-being beyond just some of the physical or some of the mental things that I thought about. But it was a big change as well in terms of I was in an office. I was in a corporate structured environment, to now, you're completely virtual. And so I went through that 2 years ago, and there isn't a structure, of a organization. And so, how do I navigate this and adapt to this and figure out how to adjust to it?
Yeah, it's an interesting evolution of the workspace. So and I've been through a very similar experience too, where I'm just like, you have the freedom now to create my own destiny in many ways. And I think that's been really sort of, energizing for me. I hope it's the same experience for you. The business travel wellbeing element. So from your perspective, you've traveled a lot, with your roles that you've been in, whether that's now, in the past, or whatever. How do you take care of your well-being, Katie? What's your plan to support yourself when you travel?
Sure. So I think I've thankfully, in having a good at-home routine,
Yep.
I have been able to carry that a lot in my travel routine. So consistent with my workouts and exercise. I'd love to run the world. So going on traveling and running in different places, great way to see different areas as well as just packing a lot of healthy snacks, or when I get to places, purchasing them. So there's a lot I've done on the physical side, I think, water, that type of thing. Am I very good on the mental side? Probably not as much. You'll find me working on the plane ride there, working on the plane ride back. People are like, oh, plane, great time to catch up on, shows and movies, Netflix. And I'm like, I'm either sleeping or I'm working on my laptop, So there's certain parts that, I still need to work on. But I think the physical side, which then keeps me feeling energized, and then helps from the mental standpoint. I also don't. I'm not a road warrior in the sense of I've never been I'm traveling every single week. So I've kept a good balance, I think, of the amount of travel I do, which has definitely helped with keeping my sanity. But I love it, and I love the energy I get in meeting different people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a bit stressful because I feel like because I'm traveling, I need to make sure everything is taken care of at home to not put stress on my husband. And so before I leave, it's always, did I buy all the groceries? Did I pre-make dinners and food and get them set up? Are the kids all set with their activities? Is the laundry done? Like, and some people say like, why do you do that much? Like, like they could take care of it when they'll be okay. And sometimes I think to myself, like, okay, yeah, did I really need to like lay out every set of clothes for every day that I'm gone for my, kids? Like my husband knows how to like pull a shirt. And I guess it just, is this feeling of I have to almost make up for the fact that I'm gone. So I need to do those things, but then, but it does then add, a little bit of stress prior. And then of course, if you have back to back or anything like that, trips. So.
I find it fascinating, such insightful perspective that you share there, Katie, and something actually which, as we talk about well-being and travel, it really is a relationship between, it's not just about the trip itself, is it? It's also, the people at home and the things we have to. I always remember my wife and children always used to say, yeah, but it's all right for you because you get to eat in the restaurant. You don't have to do the washing up and you don't have to. And I'd be like, oh, okay. So sometimes I wish I could do the washing up just to do something rather than just sit there, eat, and then go back to my room or something. I know we've had many conversations on the whole well-being element, but I just find it fascinating. I did a thing about all Matt wants is a sofa. I remember what you wanted. Do you remember what you wanted?
A blender.
You
I just
wanted a
want
blender.
in my hotel room.
Yeah, which it's not an unreasonable request, surely. Blenders aren't that expensive. Sofas are more expensive, right? So if anybody's listening from the hotelier industry or that part of the sector, get Katie a blender when she arrives, please. So I want to bring this to a point in the conversation which we're both passionate about running. For anybody that's watching this, you can see behind Katie there is what do you call it, a coat hook or a hook, sorry, a medal hook, medal rack for Run the World, and it says Run the World on it. I've got medals behind me from half marathons, and there's a London Marathon on there as well. But you're actually planning an event, aren't you, where you're going to do this? You're going to run the world, but talk to us about it. What inspired that?
I think when I took this new position in business travel, it started to involve more international travel, as well as just this idea of I can set these bigger goals. That is possible, and to have these big dreams. And so I thought, I love to run. Why not set this big goal of running on every continent, that allows me to see the world and just accomplish something. And I'm a very goal oriented person. If I don't have a next goal to achieve or a to-do list, I struggle. I have a constant, what's on my to-do list? What do I need to do? That type of thing. So anyway, I set this goal to run the world. I got 2 continents done. One was supposed to be last year. It didn't happen. But now I'm kind of, ready to hopefully later this year, maybe get back started onto it. But it again goes back to the whole travel piece and the family piece and the, I had a conversation with my husband last week about Antarctica and planning that in a couple years. And it's a 2-week trip to do that. And he said, well, you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, and I'm like, well, that's what it requires to accomplish this goal. So, and he will be supportive of it and it'll be fine. But, as I was starting to talk about with the travel thing and the family thing, especially when I first, after having my second child and started to get back into it, you have this kind of guilt of, should I be home more often with my kids? And thankfully I have some good supportive women who have explained and showed to me as well that your kids will understand and they'll be inspired by the fact that you are doing things that you love and you're out there, setting goals for yourself. And so, that's always been helpful to have that network of support to say, it's okay that I like to work and like to travel and do these things. Obviously in balance with spending time with my family, but that they'll appreciate that as they get older.
Oh, definitely. And you're right. It will inspire them. How do you inspire children to be active? Well, you be active yourself and you show them that it's good to do it and you enjoy it and you show them the benefits of doing it. I love this idea of Run the World. And I know we spoke recently about the Antarctica piece and, this 2-week trip that you're thinking or planning, not thinking, because it's going to become a reality at some point for you, isn't it? But I look forward to watching the medals stack up and sort of, line up on there. But it's just incredible. We've got a few more minutes. I do want to bring into this just one other question and that's around relaxing and sort of de-stressing, because we did have this conversation before we recorded as well. And I just want to sort of say, how can you do that, or how do you do that? So is it through your sport? You define what that looks like.
Yeah. And so as I had mentioned before, when we were discussing this, when someone says, how do you relax? Sometimes it's, I relax by running, playing hockey, exercising, which for some people you would think, wow, what is it? That's not relaxing. But it does clear my head of thoughts and thinking. Obviously, taking the time to see friends, and spend time with them, and have a break from all the other roles of working and being a mother, and that's what travel also would bring me. Even for my business trips, it'd be a break
Yeah.
from being at home and feeling on all the time. My kids are still young too, so they need a certain amount of support and attention. And so travel, and these business trips too would kind of almost give me that time to relax, to, end up in a hotel room and eat for an evening by myself for a few hours. And so it's something I'm still working on though, because I think I've just gotten into this mode in life where I'm always going. And when I don't have something to do, that stresses me out. And I recognize that, and I'm not sure I'm quite working on it as best I could. So yeah, that's the one area, and it's been hard, I think, especially being virtual all the time. I'm now, and being home all the time now, and to just think, okay, work, take care of the kids, a little more work, go to sleep, work, take, and it's just been this kind of cycle of that.
Yeah.
So.
I think the first part of the battle is recognizing it, and knowing, I could do better with it. And I think, we could all do better on our school report of, how well we're doing with managing our stress levels and relaxing, and even for me, the exercise sometimes, but I'm working on it. And I think that's all we can sort of say. Everything's work in progress. But I don't think we'll ever get to that moment of everything's perfect. And then we know with life, we get to that moment where we think it's all perfect, and hey, you open up an email.
Yeah.
Something's changed, the world's changed, or a virus arrives. Amazing. Honestly, Katie, I could talk to you for hours, and I know we will talk for hours on other forums and within the business travel wellbeing work that we're doing as well. I just want to say a huge thank you. I'm going to give you the floor in a second to share any and impart any wisdom or thoughts that you might have just to close. But just want to say a huge thank you for everything that you do around the business travel wellbeing elements, with the work that you're doing, and of course, with the work that you're doing with looking after, your family as well, and those people in your close community that you're supporting as well. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for being a guest on this as well. I hope it's been useful for you, or hopefully for the listeners, I'm sure it's been insightful and interesting to listen to as well. Any final thoughts from yourself?
I would just say, obviously within our business travel wellbeing community, one of the things we tried to advocate for initially is just listening more to the travelers. Now, as that has, taken a pause right now, as not much traveling has happened, I've realized being home all the time, this virtual environment, very easy to get caught up in a Zoom meeting after call, and not taking a few minutes on the calls to, at the beginning, say, how's it going? How are things? How are you doing? And so I would just say, thinking more about that in this type of virtual environment, especially however it continues.
Brilliant. No, I really appreciate that. And actually, you've just reminded me, I should say another big thank you, because when I turn up on those business travel wellbeing community calls with you and John and Lucy, you've always been very kind to me and checked in with me because of the things we've been going through as a family here, with all of the different stuff that we've been through. So just want to say publicly, thank you for that as well, Katie. You don't realize the kindness that you share through that sort of questioning and just checking in with people is, it's so valuable. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Right, we're done. But I just want to say at the end of these, as I always do, if anybody is struggling, if you do need to reach out, if you are worried about anything, if there's anything, please do know there are always people out there who care. If there's anything that I can help support you with, please drop me a message. I will always respond. I can't guarantee it'll be straight away, but I will always respond. I promise that. And if anybody's got any interest in anything that Katie's into, or wants to talk hockey, I'm sure she'll more than welcome any conversations or comments around that as well. But there are organizations that exist today to help support conversations, especially if you are struggling with your mental health or well-being. Please do reach out. There are lots of organizations out there. I always talk about Samaritans from the UK perspective. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know in the US you have mental health support crisis teams as well. So no, there's always somebody. Please just, know that somebody cares, that you're not on your own. Katie, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been lovely to see you again, as always, and I'll speak to you soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.